Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and Tech Roundtable show. Got a great panel. My co-host Andrew is swanning himself in Florida as we speak. It's a rough life, isn't it? But we got a great panel. We got some really great stories. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll be in to the stories. Ladies first. Tania, a returning special guest. Tania, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Yeah, right. So I'm a translator turned web designer with about, 10 years with WordPress under my belt. I'm a Corsica lover, which is why I have my Corsica cup here today. And I'm looking forward to today's chat.
Well, you might not be so happy about it afterwards, but we will see. Got a great friend of the show, a regular special guest, got Tom von Conversio. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me back, Jonathan. I appreciate it. My name's Tom Fanelli. I'm the founder and CEO of Conversio, and we offer scalable e-commerce Docker-powered hosting for WordPress.
Thanks. When are you selling to GoDaddy?
I'm sorry, but I can't talk about that.
All right. You're in negotiations. All right. There we go. You're in negotiations right now. We got Matt from the Matt Report. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe, Matt?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Matt from Matt Report and the WP Minute and Castos. Thanks for having me.
Great. The great sponsor of the show. Got Spencer. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure. Spencer Foreman from WP Launchify. We provide WordPress consulting for membership, marketing automation, e-commerce, and learning management.
That's great. And I've got my close friend, John Lott, the man that can cause a Twitter storm by just appearing on the platform. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
John Locke from Lockdown Design and SEO, doing SEO for industrial and manufacturing firms.
What's it like being described as deaf on 2 feet, John?
Yeah, nothing new.
No, you don't care fuck like me, really, do you? No, there we go. Before we go into our main stories, we've got a message from our superb main sponsor. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. I can't say more better things about Castos. They are the cream of the cream. So let's go in to our main story that only caused a slight reverberation in the WordPress community. Blockboards are fishing reels. How Gutenberg has divided WordPress by Paul Lacey. So Matt, contributed to your great WP Minute. I think you've been doing great things there, Matt. I thought it was just a fantastic post, one of the best I've read in 2021. What was your own thoughts about it, Matt?
So yeah, of course I'm biased. That was a great contribution piece. It was actually a content bounty that we ran at the WP Minute, where there was a great sponsor behind the post, and that
actually, Matt, there's a bounty on me, but not a positive
it's a different
thing.
kind of bounty, right? Yeah. And that's a fantastic program. Paul Lacey would have made $200 on that post, but he actually wanted to divert it to a big orange heart, so we made that as a $200 donation. Fantastic piece. I mean, what can I say? Paul did a great, emotional piece, really bringing us back to why community is so important to him. And I think hopefully resonates with others as to why the WordPress community is so important to them. There was some talk that it was, your typical, I don't know how to say this the right way, like anti-Gutenberg piece. Like this is just another piece that is just anti-Gutenberg. And look, there's going to be, this is life. This is open source. This is the community. People have different opinions, different feelings on different things. You can't fault Paul for having this feeling around the whole thing. And I think this was very powerful. Just to give people the sense, this article here, I'm just looking at my Fathom Analytics right now, got 1,900 views so far to that post. and 350 listens to the audio. So this is something that has a pretty strong impact on people.
Well, some people for financial and other reasons don't like this story, and they just don't like the message, do they?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know, I hate to just like sum it up as it is what it is, but this is one man's take on how it impacted him, and it's sort of a sad. It's a sad song because it was also Paul Lacey's like final retirement piece.
He'll be back.
I had a great employee for 1 week, and it didn't last, unfortunately.
That's how long I normally last with me.
Yeah, so I am looking to fill Paul's shoes. If you're interested in sort of being like that community person and news wrangler, I'm looking for somebody. I'll have a proper job description outline for the WP Minute, but I am looking for somebody. I mean, it's just a great piece, and it's just one take on how Gutenberg and the community has impacted him, and I think it resonates with others.
Yeah, I was just impressed with the intellectual breadth, and he kept it on track, unlike me, who can regularly go on a tangent to somewhere. Who knows? But he managed to keep it really. It was a really deep with many aspects. So, Uncle Spencer, what did you think of Paul's hand grenade?
I love Paul. He's always the foil of the other show, and I was looking forward to working with him over on the WP Minute as well. But I'm not really sure I understand why he pulled the plug on his interaction. I really don't. There's like a big question mark in my mind. What is he not telling us or something? And it's his business, but like. It wasn't like he got mugged in the dark alley of WordPress somewhere, and now he hates WordPress and he's afraid to go there. I mean, something else is going on, because I was the biggest critic for over a year, or 2 years maybe.
What did you say to him, Spencer?
I was really surprised, because I'm over in the Slack community that Matt's got over there for WP Minute, and all of a sudden somebody says like, the place has gone to hell since Paul Lacey left, and I said, Paul left? And the point is, it's up to Paul to describe, if he cares, if there's something else going on. But I am the harshest critic of everything and everybody that doesn't make sense. We know that about me. And I don't see anything objectively that is being done, even with the shenanigans of Automatic, that requires one to eject themselves from the aircraft of WordPress. I just don't understand it. Yeah. The block editor needs an editing block, like a Medium experience or something comparable, where you can just edit long form content. That is absolutely true. But that's just a matter of somebody coming up with it. So I don't know. Like, this just doesn't add up to me. And I will let Paul, because I like him as a friend. And
he was supposed
I'll let Paul say it for himself, but this doesn't add up to me, why he's leaving over this.
Yeah, it's a bit. He was supposed to come on the show, and for understandable, we booked over 2 months ago. It was quite interesting how things work out, but he decided at the last minute not to come on the show for understandable reasons.
I mean, if you go to Tom and I had the pleasure of working through a lot of things that I want to do in this space. And technically, there's a lot of things that he's trying to do in the space. It's hard to change a lot of stuff quickly. And sometimes you have a good idea and you have to say, well, it was a good conversation. Maybe next year we'll come and talk about it again. But like, you don't just go, well, I'm leaving. Like, I don't understand that.
So Tom's been having some regular conversations with you, Spence. Poor Tom. Tom.
I'm sure he'll say the same.
God, he looks too happy, because I've had a few with you, and I've never felt happy. Tom, what do you reckon?
Well, I mean, Spencer is a lawyer, so he is
exactly
to speak with, very much so.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know Paul very well, but he's one of these guys that's kind of been a big deal in the space for a long time. And I had a lot of emotional feelings reading this story. I went from like sad to mad to confused. And the story was so entertainingly written. I hung in there because it was a long story. It was written so well. But I just came back to the end of it thinking like, man, I wish he would channel this to a place where, because he's a leader in the space, he's a person who can facilitate change, right? And it may not happen as quickly as he wants. And so I saw it as like, that by the time I got to the end of the story, I was just kind of sad that it felt like it was like we're losing somebody because they felt like they couldn't make change, or there was this divergence in directions. And I feel like that's an unfortunate thing, but if I was him, I would probably have tried to leverage my platform for facilitating more change directionally and just keep at it.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, Tom, but I'm going to. Do you want to pass any comment on Josh's calamitous interview on Post Status, that train wreck of an interview, and about his comments about selling to GoDaddy?
I thought you were going to put me on the spot about Paul. This is really on the spot. Look, from a business perspective, I understand exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I think the thing that struck me was, and I don't know Josh and the PG crew really at all, but I was really, really surprised at the seeming, just that these two companies stand for polar opposite things.
They do. Well, they did. They did, didn't they?
They did. And, if you have to tell a story about why you're selling out to somebody that's...
yeah, but why not just be honest? They gave me tons of money, and I'm off sailing off sailing for 3 weeks, 3 years.
So the only story you can tell people is kind of the one that he did, which is it was sort of this spin to it of like, no, they want to be more like us, and the first thought that went through my head was they have plenty of money to be whatever type of company they want to be. If they really want to be like you, they should start doing things. And I don't want to bash on these guys, but
no, you can't. You got to be
look,
bad.
You got me riled up here. I had a client call GoDaddy to simply get access to a site, and 40 minutes later and $600 later, they were signed up for 5 years of services. Okay. And it was a friend of mine I was trying to help get off of GoDaddy, and they literally called in to get a password to their account or domain, and they spent $600. And I'm like, this is crazy on multiple fronts, but why does GoDaddy have to do that?
Well, like they are the worst of the worst. They are.
It's like the episode of Friends where Chandler tries to escape the health club.
Step number one, if you want to start being more like Pagely, don't do that.
No, I think I've got you quite. I've never seen you so passionate, Tom. Tania.
Hey, by the way, can I just tell you, this is all part of my strategy to be bought by GoDaddy. So
exactly, I know.
I'm learning by watching what's happening.
That's very English humor, actually. Tania, my blessed Tania. What did you think? What did you think of this piece?
Are we talking about GoDaddy, or are we talking about
no, the original article. I've just got
the original article. Okay. It's funny. Like, before I went freelance, obviously I was in the corporate world for quite some time, and I saw people leave companies who were seemingly essential, like to the heart and soul of the company. Because for whatever reasons, they retired or they got new better positions somewhere. I don't know, for whatever reasons. And everybody always got excited about it, most of the times in negative ways, because when somebody is the face or the leader of something, people always look up. We're sheep, basically, right? We follow those who are good examples in our opinion, etc. But ultimately, and that's why I understand why he left, things change, communities change. In our case, technologies change, software changes, whatever. And so I'm no longer emotionally partial to things like that, right? So if he thinks it was good for him, then he has his good reasons. And I can tell you this, the community will be just fine without him. And that's not in a mean way or anything like
Right.
that. It's just part of passing of time, I guess.
Yeah, but what did you think of some of the things he said in his piece? Because I thought the points he was making were excellent. What's your view on that, Tanya?
Mm, one of the questions that I asked myself while reading the piece was, how old is this guy? Because to be honest, not that I can think of, I don't think I've ever heard of him or, consciously followed him, whatever. But I was wondering how old he is, because to me, it seems like he's a guy who just, this is no longer the shoe that fits my foot, and I think that's something that comes with age and with experience. Yeah, but maybe he's just a Virgo. I don't know. Not that I believe in that stuff, but Virgos have problems with change.
Right, Matt, I've got to ask you this before you go, but if you don't want to go down this, fair enough. You work for Paisley, Josh and his wife. They seem, I only met them a couple of times. They seem very nice people. And I'm very pleased for their payday. Don't get me wrong, Matt. Every company's got its price. One day, if it's a successful company, it's going to be bought. Everybody sells, we've got to be realistic. But was you not shocked? And I was a bit shocked, but secondly, the man, was you not, this interview and post status, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, or I just thought it's a bit of a train wreck myself. But what's your own thoughts?
I only caught the tail end of the interview, and I hadn't gone back to finish it yet. But here's what I can speak on. Quickly, let me not in defense of Paul, but this it's a tough community when folks don't agree with you a lot, and some folks don't want to stick around for that roller coaster ride, right? So they don't like the criticism. They can't take the criticism, and Paul dedicated nearly 2 years every week with Nathan's show on WP Builds. And as somebody who creates content, and that is not developer focused, which is not the primary, when it's business focused, which is not the primary audience of WordPress, I get it all the time. Just the dude talking about business, who wants to hear him anymore? So I totally can understand, why Paul is like, I don't want this anymore. Transition over to Pagely. Worked there for 3 years, knew Josh and Sally well before. Sally's the unsung hero most of the time in that organization, really keeping it together. And look, why do we see all these acquisitions happening this year? Because it's the right time. And if it's the right time, if you want to get out and you spent 15 years building a business, are you going to survive another 15 with where everything else is going? Again, I know I'm biased. I was a sales guy there. I was the cheerleader for Pagely, trying to get people to buy amazing product from an amazing team, most importantly. And y'all, when this company leaves, where was everybody to support Pagely over the years, right? If you want awesome products to survive and awesome companies to exist in this ecosystem, you have to support them. So it's very easy for everyone to come around and rally around. Pagely was great. Can't believe it's going to go away. Now we're going to lose this in the community. But how many conversations I had with people who voted for the lowest dollar point for hosting over the years. So it's one thing to say, we want amazing products, we want amazing services like Pagely, but I was the person in the room with a bunch of agencies and a bunch of freelancers who were just like, we're just going to go with that $100 a month option. Okay. Like, we're trying to build something great. We're trying to build a team in a premier product, and this is what it costs. And maybe if there was more support in sales for Pagely, Josh would have had a different tact. But look, it's the right time. And also, GoDaddy, I have no ties with GoDaddy. I don't have a product. I'm not sponsored. I think they're trying to make the right moves. When you take a step back and you look around, especially now with the acquisition of Pagely, there's a lot of our friends that work for GoDaddy. And I know, and maybe it's their pro division, but I know that I'm a little bit more cautious on saying that they're just the absolute bottom of the barrel, because I do think they're trying to make moves. How do you steer a battleship the size of GoDaddy and turn it on a dime to make it better? In a year, I don't think you could do that. People are still talking about Danica Patrick commercials. Like, this is like decades long branding issues that they have to right the ship about. And I think they're trying to make the right moves. And I hope something like an acquisition of Pagely does make that change. But
yeah, I just want to respond to that. I've got the deepest respect for you, Matt. Truly have. Not only because your company sponsors my show, I truly do have the deep. And you came on my podcast in the very early days where it was a real mess of a podcast. And I always appreciate your support for doing that, Matt. But I really disagree with you, Matt. GoDaddy, they've tried this over and over and over again, this spin, and they get people in the WordPress community, they hire them, and then we're changing our ways. Their rubbish support and their rubbish hosting has damaged WordPress. They have people, when they have a terrible experience with WordPress because of GoDaddy's terrible support and terrible hosting, they don't blame GoDaddy so much. They do, but they also blame WordPress. And they go somewhere else because they consider their experience of WordPress to be their experience of GoDaddy. And I personally, Matt, have had, like what Tom has expressed, I have wasted hours of my life with their rubbish support. Literally hours of my life, which I won't get back, Matt. And trying to explain to clients why we're having all these problems. We're having these problems because we're dealing with this rubbish company. And
they're using their big logo to cover that up.
And I haven't got any more patience, and I haven't got any more time for them. And they're never going to sponsor this show. And I would never take, and I'm a mercenary, I take anybody's money, literally.
20 grand.
And I'm not going to be, they're never going to sponsor this show, Matt, because they're crap.
Yeah.
They really are the worst of the worst. And that's saying something.
Can I quickly just comment on two things Matt said that Matt, I totally agree with you. I wrote a blog piece about this like a year ago. The WordPress community as a whole needs to step up investing in innovative companies and not be like, oh, well, I'm not going to pay that price. Like, dude, if you find one or two clients you can put on Pantheon, Kinsta, Convesio, Pagely. Like, these companies are trying to innovate the hosting space, and 98% of all hosting is cPanel, legacy, single server technology that anybody can get into business licensing and say, I'm the fastest SSD hosting provider with the best support and security and blah, blah, blah. There are companies out there that are trying to innovate, and they are, we should be supporting them as a community more and not be always going for the cheapest possible thing. And then lastly, I do agree with you. Like, I've been in two big public companies, and the only way you do change a public company is you make bold moves with the capital you have. And this was a bold move on GoDaddy's part. Now, a lot of companies do that and the acquisitions implode. I mean, not to mention, EIG bought Constant Contact, and we've all seen how that sort of worked out, right? And so we'll see. The story is not over about Pagely and GoDaddy. So we're going to watch and we'll find out. But I agree with you that you can't change a big organization overnight, and you got to make bold moves. And this was one on GoDaddy's part.
Right, John, my friend.
I gotta take off, everybody.
Yes, right. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Matt.
everybody.
Bye. John. Oh, is he? I think he's talking to John. Are you there?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
What's your spin before we go on our break?
On the Pagely thing or on Paul's thing? Let me talk on Paul's thing.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about that. Paul's a friend. You know, I didn't know him at first. I got to know him. I really like him. Everybody has to do what's right for them. And, you know, he referenced your last guest in this. I think that was part of the reason. I think there's, you know, other things he saw. Look, we all build websites. We all work with web technology. He'll be around doing something else. I guarantee it. And whatever it is, it's going to be awesome. So, you know, I think there's kind of a attitude that I've seen in the WordPress community where it's like, if you don't like, you know, where it's going, then, you know, get off the train and you're not part of the team. And I don't know that that's the right attitude. You know, people are still going to be making websites. They're still going to be a part of the larger web community. And so, Paul, you have my support, whatever you're doing.
Right. Thanks for that, John. We're going to go for our break. We'll be back in a few moments. Your sound was breaking up a bit, John. Do you want to log out and log back in again and see if you get a better connection? We're coming back. Well, one story took the first half up, but we were covering like two stories. Spencer's almost nodding off. Or maybe he's just grimacing. He's wondering what
I'm
the
just
hell.
I'm looking down. That's all.
All right, you're looking.
I can
down
look up.
All right, I'll probably get a message.
I can never fall asleep on you, John.
I'm not replying to that. So on to the next story, which I changed at the last minute just to make sure the panel were reading the stories. Dole, DAO, bids on the Constitution. I really found about bidding on the Constitution. You know, I understand there's 13 copies of the original Constitution. It looks like some Saudi prince has bought one of them. I think it's a sad moment that the living, breathing Constitution of this country is just something to be bought and sold. I think all 13 should be owned by the American people, and they should be on display at different places in this great country. So this is my personal view. It's a disgrace that it was just put on to be sold like a pack of potatoes, literally. Secondly,
like the Wu-Tang record.
Yeah, really, but the tech interest is the idea that capital can be in this new method. Capital can be assembled very quickly, because I personally feel it's got interesting linkage to the way that WordPress could be financed or WordPress projects. What do you reckon, Spencer? What did you think of the story, and do you think it's got some interest about how WordPress in the future, how WordPress projects could be financed?
First of all, I enjoyed the Ed Morton Rand Hendrickson on the show yesterday. It was good to see him back on the show. Miss his voice in this particular space. I think this particular story, this particular thing has to do with using tokenized voting or tokenized, power of doing things. But it also kind of reflects upon the fact that, we've got a Wild West going on of very young, energetic, mostly, although not all, people who are making gargantuan fortunes off of cryptocurrency and even NFTs. But that's not dissimilar to the gold rush, where lots of people made a crap ton of money, but not necessarily because they were brilliant. There was a combination of right place, right time, luck. So what I see happening here is this is pushing the envelope of established norms, and they're trying to be controversial because the same young people understand the power of social media and otherwise, right? Like the Kardashians would not necessarily have existed in the same way back in 1929, but they understand how to use the tools to get attention, and then that becomes their currency. So on the one hand, I think that this is an example of something that we're not going to see go away anytime in the future. But I also feel like you're going to see a lot of pushback to this, because the needle's going to swing the other direction from government, especially when it comes to dollars or other, fiat currencies. They're not going to sit still while people get together and go, let's all take over a continent because we all have this much money and we can all vote on what we want to do with it. The government's going to crack down on it, just like with the initial gambling. As a metaphor, I forget the name of the company, but the first company that got away with legal gambling online, the government came back with probably the motives of the Las Vegas mafia or Las Vegas, pollsters, and said, hey, we're putting you all in jail to make an example of you. And then they went ahead and set up their own online gambling, and they took a piece of the action. It's like a Sopranos episode. So long story short, now, how is it different than WordPress? It's different from WordPress because Automatic does not seem to be offering anybody a piece of the action. You know what I'm saying? Like if Automatic, hey, come on over here, it'd be different. They would say, oh, I have a vote. I can pay money to Automatic and have a vote in what Automatic makes. That'd be a different story. But they're not. They're saying we're going to act on our own.
Yeah, but what isn't it interesting? It's open source, so you could fork it, and then through this mechanism, you could get a large investment from various people in a you wouldn't need to go to Salesforce or any,
Well, that's what I think is happening with the Wix investment that's going to be happening in Elementor, supposedly, is that somebody with enough money comes in, says, hey, you know what? Like, we don't need to listen to the way you're doing it. We can fork WordPress. We'll take Elementor. We'll build our own version of this. And if you like us, you'll vote with your wallet by coming over and taking our all-in-one package. That is a possibility. But I'm referring to the individual. Like right now, the thing with cryptocurrency is it's supposed to be an actual transactional medium, but it's not.
No.
Most cryptocurrency is become an investment vehicle or a profiteering vehicle, which is not the original intention, but it's what's happening. So if there was a mechanism, you could buy a piece of the WordPress action, and that was worth something, either for an investment or for a transaction, that'd be a different story. But there's no standard. Like right now, who am I going to invest in? Like, there's 25, 30 cryptocurrencies. There's only one Automatic. And then what, am I going to give Syed money or something? Like, there's nobody to bet on right now.
I'm sure
I can't buy stock. There's no public company I can buy stock in. That's basically what
I'm sure that Syed would be very happy to take your money.
By the way, I didn't talk on this because it's not my business, but like when you look at why Pagely sold, I think the best comment was because if they didn't sell now, they'd be the schmucks that didn't sell, and then it passed them by, and then they became inconsequential because at the end of the day, it's very hard to offer hosting services, Tom can attest to, unless you have a differentiator on some other factor.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Spencer. I've got no problem with them selling. I've got no problem. No.
But I'm saying, like,
I really, in my heart, Spencer, have no problem with them selling to GoDaddy. It was the old joke. It was that interview, that train wreck of interview, that sparked me off.
But there's the old joke. It's a little saucy, but like the person is talking to the professional sex worker and saying, "Would you sleep with me for this?" And they go, "No," and they raise the price. But the point is, the joke punchline is, at this point, we've already established what you are. Now we're just negotiating, okay? And if you have a company and somebody's offering you money, there's a certain point at which it doesn't matter what the company's about. That's so much money that you have to say yes. That's it.
Got no problem with that. I think you're totally right. Like I say again, it wasn't the fact that they sold to GoDaddy. It was the fact that this kind of ridiculous spin that they tried to put on it. That they were going to join the Borg and change the Borg. No, they're not.
And Chestnut is changing everything over for the
this train wreck of interview that was post status, that they should know better than engage in that train wreck of interview, and it was an absolute train wreck. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, you know. But if that's the way they want to go, Spencer, good luck to them with that type of interview. That's their decision. But
I mean, I have no opinion on the interview. Was just like, that's the messenger as far as I'm concerned. Corey got a late night exclusive or something. That's what I would call it. I don't see any problems with that. But the other part is, it's very hard in a politically correct world to talk about a dirty joke. I just noticed that it was very hard for me to tell a joke that involved a prostitute in a politically correct world.
Yes,
I just want to put out on the record that it's very hard for me as a comedian on the show to do my act in a network television environment. That's all I'm saying.
Tania, what did you think of this story? Obviously, you're muted, Tanya. You have a problem with the mute
I'm
button.
sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? I tried reading that, and I have no freaking clue about cryptocurrency other than I just recently joined a Facebook group, Bitcoin for Beginners. So I really don't know. But I do have to agree. I didn't understand, why would somebody sell the Constitution? It's like, what?
To make money, my dear.
There's people have no morale anymore. I don't know.
No, I really think that I was outraged by it, really, a little bit. I don't know why, but I'll be interested. There was the two sides of this story: the actual selling of the living, breathing Constitution, like you're selling a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
And
did I understand it correctly that they only did not win because they couldn't prove that they had the funds to take care of it?
I don't know. I was interested in the technology and the possibilities of it, but also, you sell the. So, Tom, there seem to be two aspects. The selling of the. I'm not going to overdo it, because obviously that Constitution, it had deep flaws. No rights if you're a woman, no rights if you're black. No rights if you're a native Indian. Only rights if you're white and a white man. But it was still, in my opinion, the spark of liberty and enlightenment. For it just to be sold to the highest bidder, I find nauseating, personally, myself. And then you got the technology aspect of it. So what was your thoughts, Tom?
Well, I feel the same way you do. I don't think that we should be selling constitutions. There's only 13 of them. I think that they should be the people's document. And I love that idea that you had of, everyone being able to see them. But moving on to the technology and the thing you touched on, the way to finance WordPress projects, right? So I think that's interesting. I think one of the things that's, first of all, it's not lost on me that there's this, who are these people? It's this new, I'm not a very cryptocurrency literate person, okay? But it's there's these people who have hordes of bit and all sorts of, Ethereum, whatever it might be, right? The cryptocurrency, hordes of cryptocurrency. And these people now have there's conglomerates of where they're coming together and they're doing powerful things, or there's influencers who can say, go put your crypto coin on this, and they can sway these markets. And it's almost like there's becoming this new elite class of we're bankers, it's now there's this new class of younger cryptocurrency influencers who are controlling large swaths of cryptocurrency. So that's one of the things that I'm reading this going, who are these people? What? And they're talking about so-and-so was on a podcast and in 5 minutes raised X amount. I'm so I think that's a important point. And then the other point is that I'd say, regardless of this particular piece of technology and platform, there has never been a better time to raise money in the WordPress space, because there's so many alternatives to raising traditional capital for whatever project that you've got. So,
it was how you originally financed your own business, was an interesting way, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I understand, because I find crypto, but as Spencer said, the original Krypton goes up and down. It's the investment. But then you had a fixed cryptocurrency, which was Tether, and Tether's got all its own problems that I don't want to go into. But then you remember you got a new coin trying to be started, which is from one of the joint founders of Cold Fusion. You remember Cold Fusion, Tom?
Very well. Very
I
well.
forgot he's trying to
You're
get
dating
a
me.
fixed and do it in his own words the right way. So it's interesting. But I listen to some of these crypto coin experts, and it's like a different language. And I'm always very suspect when people can't speak direct English, where, you know, obviously if you're dealing with quantum mechanics or obviously that's a different story. But when you're dealing with something not a scientific specific subject and you can't talk English, understandable English, I have some problems. My alarm bells start ringing. So, John, what did you reckon about this, John?
I mean, the one thing that I like about the concept is that, and they use the example of the one of the apes. I can't remember which one, NFTs, but you have to buy one of these expensive NFTs to have a vote or to have access to the community. And this thing is not like that. I think crypto overall, I think it's a new shiny object. I think there are a lot of people in the technology space, usually white guys, libertarians, and they're like really obsessed with it. And, you know, is it a thing that's viable? I mean, I've heard all kinds of people like say all kinds of different things about crypto, but I mean, the NFTs, a lot of people are comparing it to how traditional art is used for money laundering. There might be some applications for it down the line, but yeah, I mean, like the crypto and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it displacing world currencies anytime soon.
There's all sorts of aspects, but as the investment way, I think it's interesting. So,
I think people are into it because it's technology and they can get rich quick by just buying it and sitting on it, and that's it.
Yeah,
so
it's got that aspect. So on to story 3, the state of the word 2021. So Spencer, are you really looking forward to the state of the word from our great leader?
I mean, it's interesting to hear what he says because you get an insight into things that are not really obvious. You know, I'm no one to judge what it's like to be in his shoes because I could never have that type of position. It's not, my personality would not align well with that. Exactly.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Don't do that to me.
I had my own background. I'd have Matt with me.
Does that to me as well, and it all starts to get me hot and bothered, Tanya. Please don't do that. Please don't do that, Tanya. All right, sorry.
But I will say that in the course of seeing these things after the fact before, it'll be interesting this year to see whether he addresses some of the same points that we've been talking about with like the consolidation that's happening, an acknowledgement of the reality that this is turning into a business at the expense of reducing the, you know, hanging around the campfire community, that there were some events this last year that we all know about that got some of the automaticians feeling uncomfortable about their personal safety and so on and so forth. Like there was a lot of hot spots. And I'm going to make a prediction. My prediction is that he's going to glaze over all of that stuff. And he's just going to put a frosting on the cupcake for whatever sounds good to his venture capitalist. Because to do otherwise would be self-defeating. There's no benefit to go all year not saying anything and not being the kind of do as I say leader and then come up with something that, look at Zuckerberg with the metaverse kind of speech, you know, like, hi, everything is great. You're awesome. It's your personal freedom. You know, like, why do that and expose yourself to that criticism? Because we all speak about it all day long anyway.
Trust me, I should run the web. You know,
I mean, Matt has his own personality, but like, I'm 55, right? You at a certain point you grow out of the thing you were before. I haven't. If I were to continue talking like a 25-year-old bro on YouTube who's doing cryptocurrency and taking testosterone supplements, I would look really silly making videos about that. But there's guys that do that now who are making $1 million a month making bro videos, pumping up at the gym and like, you know, talking about their t-shirt business, and they're making a killing. But see, I think you have to be who you are. And Matt right now is not the 22-year-old guy he was. He's a guy who's running a $1 billion+ company, and he has to act like a mature suit-wearing person.
He's busy counting all the greens, Spencer. So it takes a long time to count the amount of green he's got. Tanya.
That's right, bro.
Right. It took a long time to,
Make some gains.
Yeah. Tanya, what do you think? And you know, you got me all hot and bothered, Tanya. So there we go.
I'm telling you, that was 2019 in Berlin. That was my first State of the Word I heard, and it was in person. And I got to hug him, and
you won't be hugging me at the same time soon, mate. All right, sorry.
Give me food, I'll hug you. Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I think aside from all the, you know, the development with Gutenberg and all of that, and how WordPress itself is evolving, I think the ecosystem in which WordPress operates and functions has changed humongously. I don't know about you guys, but the past 1.5, now going on 2 years, my business has changed because of, you know, the pandemic and my clients, you know, their business models changing and then them adapting to, I'm not allowed to say the F word, but, you know, the virus and the pandemic and all that. So I'm sure that must have impacted Automatic the same. Personally, last year I didn't watch the State of the Word. I'm still not sure if I'm going to watch this year, just because 2019 was so awesome, you know, and it's like anything that comes after that, especially these days, can't be as awesome. But I'm really looking forward. Well, yeah, I am going to watch it. So I'm looking forward to hear from him how the outside, you know, the surroundings of WordPress have you know, maybe had an impact on WordPress itself. Just to kind of understand the top down, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally, Tanya. You're much more sensible than me. I guarantee no sense on this show. Spencer will guarantee that. So you should laugh, Spencer. I thought they were quite good jokes, but there we go.
I like the Tanya one. Tanya, you're free to use the F-bomb. I say it all the time. I'm trying to be more child friendly on the show because I know our new audience is under 18 here. So I don't want to.
Fucking pandemic.
Those kids today are very precious.
Yeah.
We have to set the example.
I'm trying to control myself, Spencer. I might have had a bit of a rant on GoDaddy, but you know, can you blame me?
When Andrew's hosting the show, he doesn't allow me to get away with anything. I like that you let me get away with it, but I'm trying to be self-regulatory here.
Yeah. I thought he, you know, Andrew's quite cruel to you last week, but you dealt with it. And, you know,
Andrew and I get along just fine, but he definitely runs a tighter ship when it comes to letting me talk.
Exactly. To say the least. Tom, are you waiting in bated breath? The great words of wisdom from our great leader, Tom.
Well, yes, but I don't know. These things seem to be so diluted. Like about 80% of the stuff Matt says, I find, you know, really relevant and interesting. Maybe less a little bit. Like I don't really care to hear about NFTs and Web3 and all that. Like there's so much stuff he needs to come out and talk about in WordPress. Like
he won't, Tom, will he?
And so I'm like, it's like these things are kind of like, there's a lot of like, it's like a visionary keynote, right? And what I'm looking for is more of a like, what is the state of the word, right? Like, what's the state of WordPress? Like, we've heard people, you know, Alex Denning did something where he said, you know, post-pandemic searches for WordPress declining. I'd love to have some commentary on that. Is WordPress still growing? We know during 2020, fastest growth year ever. Are we still on path to get to 50% of the web by 2025? Like, those are things I want to know about, right? Because as a WordPress, business owner, and, all of us here, like, we want to be able to see and know where are we heading? Are we still on course? Like, obviously there's going to be an IPO someday. Probably won't hear anything about that. I mean, so I have a lot of questions that I'd love to get answered, but
someday over the rainbow. Oh, sorry. I think very insightful, Tom. So did my friend John. What do you reckon? Are you waiting in bated anticipation for the great words from the leader?
Oh, I can watch a replay. I'm not going to watch it live or anything like that. I mean, it's going to get recapped by a million news outlets anyway. So,
Right.
yeah, I'll just watch it later. I'll probably watch like YouTube videos or something like that.
Are you going to be twittering at the same time you're watching it, John?
No.
No. Right, there we go.
No, I don't have an issue with Matt Mullenweg.
Yeah, well, there we are.
What? You have an issue with Matt?
Oh, I said I do not. I do
okay.
not. Yeah, there's a. Anyway, yeah.
I haven't. I wish him well, Tania. He's a busy man counting all. Like I said, counting all that green takes a lot of time. Let's on to story 4. So I'm cracking Tania up there. Lost in transaction, a global streaming boom is creating a severe translator shortage. Well, this must have been music to your ears, Tania. Happy days for if you're a translator.
That is the biggest bullshit. Of course, if I have a budget of $7,000 to translate an entire, what was it, episode? I think. Of course,
I think it's the whole thing. I think it's the whole series.
$13 a minute.
How much?
$13 a minute.
No.
Yes, that's what they quoted in that article. $13 a minute to translate.
I broke it down to the word, and it was less than a cent.
Yeah.
And just to give you some perspective, right? If I were to subtitle, not closed caption or anything like that, or write a script for voiceover, whatever. If I were to subtitle a series, given that it comes from such it's different if you would translate, I don't know, maybe an Italian series into French, right? I mean, those cultures are kind of close, but we're talking Korean and the rest of the world, right? So
I'm fluent in it, Tania. As a lot of people on Twitter would testify. Go on, sorry.
So if I were to compare, if Netflix would have asked me for a quote, what I would take per video minute, not me working a minute, but translating or subtitling a minute of the series, I would have been somewhere probably around $20 at least. Okay? Because that's how long it takes to make a good subtitle. So just because you don't have the budget, and I understand why they don't have the budget, okay? Don't get me wrong. But don't say there's a shortage of people who are able to produce good subtitles. The shortage is the budget. So the problem we have is the revenue that filmmakers make with streaming. That's the culprit, not the supposed fact that there's not enough translators and subtitlers out there and voice artists who would be able to do a good job. I am in so many translator groups. I am on so many email newsletters where I get, jobs up for posts. But if somebody offers me a fraction of what I have to earn just to make a living where I am, it's ridiculous. It's seriously ridiculous. So basically, the people who can work for that money are people who do it for the love of it, not people who have to live off of it. And then for every news outlet going to say there's a shortage of translators, that's just ridiculous. And that really pisses me off. Also, what I don't understand is nobody talks about the difference between subtitles and closed captioning. That's two totally different things. And if you go on Netflix and you have the wrong settings, you're going to be reading something that makes absolutely no sense because you're watching it for a different purpose, right? So yeah, that whole thing really has me riled up. The problem is not the lack of translators or good translators. The problem is the budget. And the budget is the problem because of the way we do streaming.
So, Spencer,
Sorry.
is this also linked to the article that we discussed last week, the Great Resignation and the shortage of people? Well, there's no shortage of people. It's just you need to pay them more. That's the only, they're not prepared to work for less than $15. You need to pay them some more money. Is it really just that simple, really, Spencer?
Well, I don't think it's that simple. I think that the concepts are easy to get your head wrapped around. And Tania's point is really well taken because, it's sort of, if you listen to what she's saying the same thing about working at a fast food restaurant, right? There's no shortage of people who will work at McDonald's. When McDonald's pays somebody enough to bother showing up and having stuff flinged at them all day, then they will have an abundance of workers. But the people here's the problem. In both of these worlds, and Larry David, if you ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, makes a mockery of this so well. The people who are in the upper management echelons of all these companies, these corporations, especially in the media business or fast food industry, they're so detached from the reality of the normal middle class or lower class people. And I say middle class because I do voiceover work, or I have in the past, and that's a feast or famine thing. But I understand it takes a lot of effort to get something 100% right versus 50% right. Like most of my stuff, I make 20% right because it's me. But the point is to do it to the standard of that person that has no concept of what's involved in their office at Netflix or something else like that is impossible because A, the person doesn't understand at the upper echelon what actually goes into the process, and B, because they don't respect the needs of other people below them for getting a job done and living, right? No?
I have to add to that, Spencer. What they also don't realize is, and I am absolutely certain of this, those people up there in the upper management levels, whoever are making the decisions, they're not even the ones consuming their own product, but they're trying to think for consumers. Right. But the problem is, remember back in the day when we would watch like Bonanza on the TV and we would make it a date night with family because, there was no replay or whatever. There was no on demand.
Well, I'll give you an example. I'll extend the example to two other things that apply to the same topic, but for different reasons. Number one, I have all of the subscription channels because my kids and I find it, it's an economy that
you got your ladies, haven't you?
I have everything I never wanted: Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, Hulu, blah blah blah. Now, I love the show Shark Tank. ABC executives have a poll so far up their rear ends because I get ABC via Hulu. I pay for the subscription Hulu, and yet Shark Tank episodes on a 40-minute episode have 180 hours of commercials, even on the paid versions. And I say to myself, who at ABC is paying attention to the fact that, like, I hate them so much, I refuse to watch the show now because they've made it such an embarrassingly painful thing to do, even after I pay for their subscription. You see this in radio. Have you listened to the radio lately? In a 60-minute, hour, it's 59 minutes of commercials and 1 minute of content. Well, here's the thing. The good news is the world is changing because, the same bros making their gains videos and doing cryptocurrency, they're shifting the paradigm away from executives at large corporations when it comes to certain things. And I'm not saying there's the answer today, but when one of them puts together an organization that essentially outsources this kind of stuff, then the corporate people have to pay through the nose for that because they will organize it. And this historically has happened for unions. It's happened for things like Antitrust Act. We're just in the new space where they get away with it. And I mean, I'll torture you one more time. Like, I went to go pick up a prescription from Walgreens. I drive an e-bike, right? An electric bike. I wear a helmet. It's treated like a motorized vehicle in some states, not others. The point is, I go to the drive-through at Walgreens, like the motorcycle before me and the little lady in the little mobility scooter after me, and the pharmacist refused to hand the prescription through the window, saying that in his judgment, I was not a motorized vehicle, and therefore it was against corporate policy. I said, you've got it in your hand. You won't hand it to me. because some jackass at Walgreens upper management made a decision that somehow their liability is greater. Now, think for yourself. COVID testing, they don't allow people to walk in. I wasn't a COVID test, but you're not allowed to walk in the store. What if you don't have a car and you want to go get a COVID test? You're not allowed to use the drive-up window, and McDonald's is the same way. So you know what I did? I said, so if this isn't a motorized vehicle, I can bring it in the store, right? He said, yeah. So I rode the bike into the store, honking my air horn the whole time, pulled up to the thing, and I said, I'm here on my non-motorized vehicle to get my prescription, ding, 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 ding. And I made a scene about it. Then I went to their website, and I realized that the corporate policy of Walgreens, though not published, actually is in favor of using the drive-through window. It's just not properly applied because nobody made the effort. And this is the same thing going back to Matt Mullenweg, which is if you don't have a proactive leader of a large organization with thousands or tens of thousands of people, everybody acts like the characters in the movie Office Space. Like one person has 8 bosses all saying the same thing or different thing, and it's chaos. And that's the difference between entrepreneurs and corporations. And that's the problem we have in this world, is that the entrepreneurs are making solutions like cryptocurrency and Bro Gaines videos, and they're going to change the world. The corporations are going to sit on their ass until somebody catches them with it. And then, like Apple this week, Apple finally relented to Lewis Ross and everybody else about giving out the manual for stuff.
Yeah, but where else, listeners and viewers, could you hear this?
I'm just saying it's all connected. Like there's a theme running through this, and I know you guys acknowledge this. The theme is we have a space between corporate interests who are appeasing their shareholders and their own interests, and ordinary people who are workers and entrepreneurs. And in between, there used to be a real gray, nice sort of mix. Now there's not. There's not detachment.
I just wish I was a fly on the wall when you're on that bike. I just wished I could see your face, actually.
Spencer?
Yes?
Quick question. Would you be willing to pay Hulu more to not have the 180 minutes of commercials?
Well, that's an interesting conversation because Tom brought up the fact about airline tickets and like hosting, right? And maybe it was Matt as well. The problem is when people in the airline business, customers are given the choice between, can we have it like we did in the 70s where you get a hot meal and a tray and a nice person attending to you, or you have to pay maybe 25% more to get it. They'll always choose the lower cost thing. And that's the problem here too. These are commodity items unless you hit something that's like unique. So for example, what these streaming services have done is like the Beatles Let It Get Back thing is released. It's going to be exclusive to only one channel. That's how they get you to pay the money. And if you stay, you stay. I think that's the issue though. When you're in a world of plenty, the things that you pay for have less to do with the value of the item and more to do with weird esoteric stuff. And it's hard to pin down what that is, but like convenience, not having to renew a subscription, laziness, or certain specific content. One example, I watched some of Squid Game. I'm holding on to it, but I do use closed captioning because my hearing isn't so great. I sometimes find it's hilarious. It's part of the entertainment. But I agree with you that somebody said that Squid Games was not really well translated or subtitled, and they were saying the opposite of what they meant.
All right, we need to wrap this up so it's not War and Peace. Let's go on to our recommendations, and I do hope that my special guests have got some recommendations. And Spencer, can you please do me a favour and make sure these are in the Slack channel for me? It really does help you, Spencer. That would be much appreciated, Spencer. So my recommendation is a new plugin from the Fluent team, who seem to be in world domination when it comes to WordPress plugins. They're an excellent team. And they've got a new one. And I got my wallet out, Spencer. I actually bought a lifetime deal with them, Spencer.
For which one?
No, for Fluent support. Fluent, right. I've bought it myself. So the link will be in the show notes. Go over there, Tribe, and give them money, Tribe. Give them money. That's all I've got to say. Spencer, have you got a recommendation for the Tribe?
Yes, I'm typing your thing out too. So I did I've relaunched WP Launch Club, and I did a review or an intro of this product. This is called Yaymail plugin, and I'll post the link in here. It basically allows you to customize all of the transactional emails of WooCommerce. In some ways, like the best of Gutenberg and the best of a page builder like Elementor. And it's really important because for anybody who's doing a business with e-commerce or membership, learning management, most of your emails are really still going to be transactional from the sale. This is in the marketing automation. So from that standpoint, go watch my video, and there's links in there as well. But the product itself is Yaymail WooCommerce transactional email customizer, and it's really quite good, inexpensive.
Is this a violation of some protocol here? I mean, Spencer just shared a video of himself.
You can promote yourself.
I'm going to have to start preparing videos for my recommendations now.
Yeah, do whatever you do.
You're allowed to swear, and you can promote your own thing.
Yeah.
In this case, here's why I did it. The reason I did it is because I've been in touch with the Yaymail people. They don't have a good demo like that you can use without it being explained to you. So I feel like in this case, it's a fair.
He also sponsors the show, Tom, so allow him to do whatever shit he wants.
Yeah, what do you guys say about that, Tom?
Hey,
he's giving me money, Tom, so he thinks he owes me for a couple $100.
Not for nothing.
There we go. And he's so right, Tom. I'm so cheap. So there we go. Tom, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
Yeah, so PeachPay. So if you haven't heard of this before, it's a really cool one-click checkout plugin for WooCommerce. And I've had the honor to talk to the CEO, David, a few times, and they're a really cool startup doing some, really nice stuff. And it's one of these things where if you have recurring customers coming to your site, this makes it really easy for them to purchase. So helps improve time to checkout, conversion rate, all sorts of stuff.
Right. Thank you. And thank you, Spence, for putting that. Tania, my beloved.
Quick question for Tom.
My beloved Tania. Hopefully you got a recommendation.
I do, but I still need to figure out, does Peach app use PayPal? Or is it Stripe?
It does. It uses PayPal and Stripe.
Okay. All right. My recommendation is not something for Well, yeah, you can use it for WordPress. But since I'm the translation girl and the globalization girl and all that, I want to beg you not to use Google Translate for when you have to translate something. If you need a machine to translate your stuff, I recommend you go to deepl.com. And they have a really nifty app that you can install on your computer, either MacBook or whatever. The good thing about it is you highlight a text, whether it be in your Word, Excel, whatever files, or in your browser, whatever. You highlight it, you double click Command C or STRG, whatever C, to like the copy command. You do that twice, and it automatically opens the app, and it gives you a side-by-side translation. And then you can, with a click of a button, insert that to where you wanted to have it, or you can copy it, whatever. Since I live in the Czech Republic and I don't speak any Czech, that thing has been a lifesaver for me. It's totally improved my relationship with my fiance, who has previously had to translate for me all the time. It gives better results than Google Translate.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Uses a different technology.
Thank you for Tanya. That's really interesting. I used to have to translate things for my ex-wife, but it never seemed to work though. So there we go. Maybe
Spencer, good one.
So there we go. All right. Panel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tribe, if you want to see get some great special offers, sign up for the WP-Tonic newsletter. Go to WP-Tonic stroke newsletter, and you'll be able to sign and have access to a great offer from Spencer and the other sponsors of the show. We'll see you next week for another irrelevant look at WordPress and tech. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.